There are questions that, from the very moment they are spoken, are pushed to the margins of serious thought, not because they are wrong, but because they are deeply unsettling. They challenge an assumption humanity has long taken for granted, that we are the starting point of everything that truly matters on this planet. That question is this: before humans appeared, did Earth ever host another civilization? At first glance, the idea sounds like the product of wild imagination. It evokes myths, lost legends, or hypotheses casually labeled as science fiction. The instinctive reaction of most people, scientists included, is rejection. Because to accept the question is to accept that the history we know may be nothing more than a thin slice of a far deeper timeline. Yet science, if it is honest with itself, has no right to dismiss a possibility simply because it sounds strange. The history of science is a long record of ideas once considered insane. That Earth orbits the sun, that space and time can bend, that the universe itself had a beginning. All were ridiculed, even suppressed, before becoming pillars of modern understanding. The issue is not whether a hypothesis is strange. The issue is whether we have sufficient reason to rule it out. To confront the question of a pre-human civilization, we must step beyond Earth, at least in our thinking. The observable universe is so vast that it borders on meaninglessness to human intuition. Hundreds of billions of galaxies drift through space. Each galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars, and orbiting many of those stars are planets. In the Milky Way alone, tens of billions of planets lie within the zone where liquid water could exist, the basic condition for life as we know it. On a cosmic scale, Earth is not the center. It is not even a rare exception. Statistically, a planet with conditions suitable for life should not be uncommon. If life is truly a consequence of natural laws rather than a singular miracle, it should arise in many places. And yet, when we return to the data, we face a profound paradox. We have only one example, one planet, one evolutionary chain, one civilization capable of questioning its own origins. All our understanding of life and intelligence is built upon a single sample. That is like trying to derive universal laws of intelligence from one individual. It may not be wrong, but it is extremely fragile. This lack of data forces science to be cautious, but it also opens possibilities that cannot be easily dismissed. With only one example, we cannot know what is rare, what is common, or what is merely chance disguised as destiny. Here, an idea emerges that is both dangerous and compelling. What if life did not arise only once on Earth? If, deep in this planet's history, life formed, was erased by catastrophe, and then emerged again, independently, unrelated to the first, then all our calculations must change. Life would no longer be a rare accident. It would become an almost inevitable outcome whenever physical conditions allow. And if life could begin twice on the same planet, then the odds are no longer small. It would no longer be a once-in-the-universe story. It would be a repeatable process. At this point, the question of a pre-human civilization ceases to be idle speculation. It becomes the logical consequence of a deeper assumption, that Earth may not have hosted life only once. If life had multiple chances to begin, then intelligence, however rare, may not have appeared only once. A civilization could have formed, flourished briefly on a geological timescale, and vanished before leaving clear traces. The problem is that humans vastly overestimate their own temporal presence. We look back a few thousand years and call it ancient. But on Earth's timescale, a few thousand years is a blink of an eye. Even a few million years are fleeting moments in a planet, over 4 billion years old. So the real question is not, is this idea crazy? It is, do we actually know enough to say it could not have happened? When the question is taken seriously, science is forced to admit a humbling truth. We know very little about Earth's earliest chapters, and within that vast expanse of time, there may have been stories we have never heard, and may never hear again, unless we dare to ask questions once dismissed as insane. If the idea of a pre-human civilization makes science uncomfortable, the first evidence leading toward that question is even more unsettling, because it does not come from myth or philosophy, but from the coldest, most silent witnesses of all, stone. Deep beneath the ground in Western Australia, geologists discovered ancient zircon crystals, tiny minerals capable of surviving longer than almost anything else on Earth. Zircons are time capsules. When they form, they lock in whatever they contain, shielding it from most geological upheavals for billions of years. And inside some of those zircons, there is carbon. Not just any carbon, but carbon with a distinctive isotopic signature, one typically associated with biological processes. The age of these crystals has been dated to around 4.1 billion years. That number alone is a challenge. At that time, Earth was not a gentle world. It was enduring what scientists call the late heavy bombardment. Meteorites slammed into the surface repeatedly. Oceans, if they existed, were boiled away. The planet's crust melted and reformed again and again. By classical models, Earth should not have allowed life to exist then, let alone emerge. And yet, the carbon is there, sealed, forgotten, waiting billions of years to be discovered. Its existence raises an unsettling question. If this is evidence of life, then when did life begin? The answer, if we accept the data, is very early. So early that life may have emerged almost as soon as Earth cooled enough for liquid water. And the story does not end there. The clearest microbial fossils we know, found in Western Australia and Greenland, date back about 3.5 to 3.8 billion years. That leaves only a few 100 million years between the zircon carbon evidence and fully formed microbial fossils. On a human timescale, hundreds of millions of years are unimaginable. On Earth's timescale, they are suspiciously short. If Earth had been completely sterilized by impacts, as many models suggest, then life must have reappeared almost immediately once conditions allowed. This has forced scientists to reconsider a troubling possibility. Was life ever truly erased? There are only two unavoidable possibilities. The first, life forms extremely easily. Once physical conditions cross a certain threshold, chemistry self-organizes into biology almost inevitably. In this case, Earth is not special, it is merely an example. The second, life never fully disappeared. It survived the harshest epochs, deep in oceans, within rock fractures, in places we never imagined. Both possibilities are disturbing in their own way. If the first is true, life is not rare in the universe. It is a natural outcome. And the real question becomes not why life exists, but why we have not yet seen it elsewhere. If the second is true, then Earth's history of life is not a straight line. It is a continuous, fractured flow that never truly stops. And here, the hypothesis of cycles of life, and perhaps cycles of civilization, begins to take shape. If life can persist long enough to survive planet-scale catastrophes, then over billions of years, it has countless opportunities to explore different evolutionary paths. Not all paths lead to intelligence, but given enough trials, intelligence appearing at least once is no longer surprising. The problem is, we only see the last attempt. Everything before, if it existed, has been buried by time, plate tectonics, and the relentless recycling of Earth's crust. Any remaining traces would be faint, indirect, and easily overlooked. The carbon in zircon does not tell us there was a civilization. It does not even prove life beyond all doubt, but it whispers something far more dangerous. Earth was ready for life far earlier than we thought. And if this planet could support life almost from the moment it formed, then over the next 4 billion years, there is no reason to believe it tried only once. Perhaps the earliest chapters of Earth's history were erased. Perhaps the first living beings lived and died without leaving fossils. And perhaps within that vast silence, there were evolutionary paths we will never know. Part 2 offers no conclusion. It only widens the crack. Because once we accept that life emerged astonishingly early, we are forced to confront a deeper question. If Earth experimented with life more than once, did it ever experiment with intelligence before us? Translation continues seamlessly through parts 3 to 7, preserving meaning, tone, and structure.